Dr. Tae-ho Kim stood at the viewing window of the Earth ship Horizon, his eyes wide as he watched the stars streak by. The ship was fast approaching Nexus Prime, the capital planet of the Galactic Council. His heart beat faster as he thought about what waited ahead. First time seeing the Council planet, a voice asked behind him. Tae-ho turned to see Captain Soo-min Park, the ship's commander. Her uniform was crisp and perfect, showing Earth's new flag patch, the blue planet now with a ring around it to show that humans had joined the stars. "Yes, Captain. I've only seen pictures," Tae-ho said, his voice full of wonder. "I never thought I'd be on the team sent to meet the Council." Captain Park smiled. "Well, they asked for our best xenobiologist, and that's you." Tae-ho looked down, feeling shy about the praise. At 32, he was young for such an important job. Many said he was too young to represent Earth to the 53 alien races of the Council. "Do you think they'll take us seriously?" he asked. The captain's smile faded. "I won't lie to you. Most Council races think we're just hairless apes who got lucky with space travel. They let us join because our star system has good mining spots, not because they respect us." Tae-ho nodded. He knew this already. Earth had only found out about the wider galaxy 20 years ago, when a Council scout ship crashed in the Pacific Ocean. Since then, humans had worked hard to catch up with technology that was thousands of years ahead of their own. "We're coming out of light speed in 5 minutes, said the ship's voice system. "All staff report to arrival stations." The blue streaks outside the window slowed, and suddenly the view changed. Nexus Prime appeared before them, a huge planet with 3 rings around it, and 5 moons. The planet glowed with city lights even on its day side. Thousands of ships moved around it like busy insects. "It's beautiful," Tae-ho whispered. "Wait until you see the Wildlife Research Center," said Captain Park. "I heard that's why you really wanted to come." Tae-ho smiled. She was right. While others on the team were excited about alien technology or trade deals, he wanted to study the animals and plants from 100 different worlds. In his private notebook, he kept a list of the galaxy's most interesting creatures. At the top of his list were the dangerous ones, the hunters, the killers, the ones other races feared. The Horizon moved toward a massive space station that floated near the planet. It looked like a silver flower with 100 petals spread wide. Each petal was a docking area for ships. "Attention Earth vessel," came a voice through the ship's system. It spoke perfect English, but had a strange buzzing under the words. "This is Nexus Prime Control. You are cleared for docking at Arm 23. Council representatives will meet you there." Captain Park answered. "Thank you, Control. We're following your path now." As the ship turned toward its docking spot, Tae-ho saw aliens for the first time with his own eyes. Through the windows of other ships, strange shapes moved, some with too many limbs, others with skin that glowed, and some that looked nothing like any life form on Earth. "We dock in 2 minutes, said the ship's voice. "All diplomatic staff prepare for greeting." Tae-ho straightened his blue science uniform and checked his translator pin. The small device would let him understand any Council language and would make his words clear to them. "Ready?" asked Captain Park. "I think so," said Tae-ho, though his stomach felt tight with nerves. The ship slid smoothly into its dock with a gentle bump. Through the main window, Tae-ho could see a group waiting for them. 5 different alien species standing in a line with 1 human among them. "That's Ambassador Han," said Captain Park, pointing to the human. "He's been here for 3 months getting ready for our visit." The ship's door hissed as it prepared to open. Tae-ho took a deep breath. "Remember," said Captain Park quietly, "no matter what they look like or how they act, we're here to learn and make friends." Tae-ho nodded, but in his heart, he was most excited to see the creatures these aliens had brought from across the stars, especially the dangerous ones, the ones no one else wanted to understand. The door opened, and his adventure began. 3 days after arriving at Nexus Prime, Tae-ho found himself walking through the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. Ambassador Han walked beside him, pointing out the different alien groups they passed. "Those tall blue ones are from the water world of Tren," Ambassador Han said. "And the small floating creatures are the mist people. They breathe gas instead of air like us." Taiho nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. Today was the day he had been waiting for. The special exhibition of dangerous creatures from across the galaxy. "Are we almost there?" he asked, trying not to sound too excited. Ambassador Han laughed. "You scientists are all the same. Yes, the creature hall is just ahead. But remember, this is still a diplomatic event. Try to look interested in the council members too, not just their pets." They turned a corner and entered a massive room with high ceilings. The room was filled with clear containers of all sizes. Inside each one was a different alien animal. Some had many legs, others had none. Some had teeth longer than Taiho's arm. Others had poison that could kill with one drop. Council members from many worlds moved between the displays, talking in groups. Taiho noticed that humans were getting many curious looks. "Come," said Ambassador Han. "There's someone you should meet." He led Taiho to a group of important-looking aliens standing near the largest display. Among them was a human woman in formal clothes. "Dr. Kim, this is Senior Counselor Haendel Park, Earth's highest representative on the council," said Ambassador Han. The woman smiled and shook Taiho's hand. "So you're our animal expert. Good timing." They're about to show the main attraction. A tall, thin alien with 4 arms stepped onto a small stage at the front of the room. The crowd grew quiet. Honored council members and guests, the alien said in a voice that sounded like bells, "Welcome to our exhibition of the galaxy's apex predators. Today, we have a special showing of the most dangerous hunter ever found, the Nexus Shadow." The lights dimmed, and a large section of the floor in the center of the room began to open. From below, a massive clear cube rose up. It was at least 20 feet on each side, but the cube itself wasn't what made people gasp. Inside the cube was darkness. Not empty darkness, but a shifting, moving shadow that seemed to absorb light. As Taiho watched, the shadow began to take shape. First came the head, pointed and sleek with no visible eyes. Then the body formed, long and powerful like a big cat from Earth, but with 6 legs instead of 4. Each leg ended in claws that looked sharp enough to cut metal. The creature's skin was black, but not like black paint. It was black like a hole in space. The Nexus Shadow, the 4-armed alien continued, was discovered on the death moon of Krell. It has killed 23 trained handlers and can escape almost any cage. This one is contained using a quantum field that prevents it from shifting into its shadow form. Taiho couldn't look away. While others stepped back from the cube, he moved closer. "Careful," warned Counselor Park. "Even with the quantum field, it's not safe to get too close." "It's beautiful," Taiho whispered. The creature turned as if it had heard him. For a moment, Taiho thought he saw eyes appear in its face, eyes that glowed with a deep purple light. The beast moved to the edge of the cube closest to him and placed one 6-clawed foot against the clear wall. "Amazing," said a voice behind them. "It seems interested in the human." Taiho turned to see an alien scientist watching him. The alien had a round body and small limbs with large golden eyes. "I am Director Du Yan Kang, head of Dangerous Species Research," the alien said. "In 30 years of studying this creature, I've never seen it approach anyone like that." Taiho looked back at the shadow. It was still watching him, its head tilted to one side. "What do you know about it?" Taiho asked. Director Kang made a clicking sound that might have been a laugh. "Very little. It can turn itself into living shadow. It hunts by sensing heat and movement. It's incredibly smart. It has escaped 7 different containment systems before this one." Taiho watched as the creature paced along the edge of its cube. Each movement was perfect and smooth, like water flowing over rocks. "Has anyone tried to communicate with it?" he asked. The director and Counselor Park exchanged looks. "The last three who tried are dead." Director Kang said simply, "This is not a creature to befriend, Dr. Kim. This is a perfect killer." Tai-ho said nothing, but in his mind, he wasn't so sure. Something about the way the shadow moved, the way it watched him. It didn't seem like mindless killing to him. It seemed like intelligence. And as he watched, the shadow's eyes appeared again, looking directly at him. The exhibition continued for another hour. Important aliens from all over the galaxy came to see the deadly creatures, but most came to see the Nexus shadow. Tai-ho stayed near its cube, watching how it moved and reacted to the visitors. "You're still here." Ambassador Han had returned, looking tired after talking to so many alien officials. "Everyone else is moving to the main hall for the dinner. I want to stay a little longer," Tai-ho said. "There's something about this creature." Ambassador Han shook his head. "Don't get too interested in that thing. The council members are starting to notice. They already think humans are strange." "Just 10 more minutes," Tai-ho promised. As Ambassador Han walked away, Tai-ho turned back to the shadow. It had been watching their conversation, its head moving back and forth as each person spoke. That was odd behavior for an animal. It was almost like it was following their words. Tai-ho stepped closer to the cube. The shadow moved closer too, its front legs pressing against the clear wall. "You understand us, don't you?" Tai-ho whispered. The shadow's head tilted, just like a curious dog might do. Tai-ho looked around. Most of the council members had left for dinner. Only a few guards and staff remained in the room. Tai-ho raised his hand slowly and placed it against the cube wall, right where the shadow's clawed foot was pressing. The creature didn't move away. Instead, it seemed to study Tai-ho's 5 fingers with interest. Suddenly, the lights in the room flickered. Once, twice, then they went out completely. Emergency lights came on, casting a dim red glow over everything. "System failure in Section 12, a computer voice announced. "Backup power activated. Warning. Containment fields at 30%. The guards began shouting orders. Staff members ran for the exits. Tai-ho heard the sounds of other creatures in the room making noises as their containers weakened. He looked at the shadow's cube. The clear walls were turning cloudy, and the creature inside was changing. Its solid form was melting, becoming more like smoke. "Everyone out now," shouted a guard. "The quantum field is failing." People rushed toward the doors. Tai-ho knew he should run too, but he couldn't stop watching the shadow. Its body was now half solid, half shadow, as if it was caught between 2 forms. Then, with a sound like a soft wind, the cube's walls failed completely. The shadow poured out like black water, spreading across the floor, and then reforming into its 6-legged shape. Its head turned, scanning the room. Tai-ho didn't run. Something told him that running would be a mistake. The shadow would chase anything that fled. That was what predators did. At the main door, Counselor Park was helping others escape. She turned back, looking for any people left behind. "Dr. Kim," she called when she saw him. "Come quickly." Her shout drew the shadow's attention. It turned its head toward her and began to move, flowing across the floor like dark water. Its body changed as it moved, becoming longer, faster. Tai-ho saw what was happening. The shadow was hunting, and Counselor Park was its target. "No," Tai-ho shouted. Without thinking, he stepped between the creature and the door. "Stop." The shadow paused, just for a moment, its form shifting back to the 6-legged shape. Then it continued forward, moving around Tai-ho. Acting on instinct, Tai-ho did something that made the guards at the door gasp. He reached out and touched the creature's side as it passed. The shadow froze. Its skin felt like cold silk under Tai-ho's hand. For a moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, the creature turned its head to look at him. Tai-ho remembered how it had watched his conversation with Ambassador Han. It had understood their taking turns to speak. Maybe. He pointed to himself. "Tai-ho," he said clearly. Then he pointed to the shadow and waited. The creature's form rippled. From its body, a small tendril of shadow rose up and pointed back at Taiho. "Yes, Taiho," he confirmed, nodding his head. The tendril then curved back to point at itself. Everyone in the room was completely still, watching this impossible exchange. Even the guards had stopped shouting orders. The shadow's eyes appeared again, glowing purple in its black face. It made no sound, but Taiho somehow knew that it was trying to communicate. "It's intelligent," he said, loud enough for others to hear. "It's not just an animal." Behind him, he heard Counselor Park's shocked voice. "That's impossible." But as they all watched, the shadow moved closer to Taiho, not in a threatening way, but like it was choosing to stay near him, choosing him over freedom. The guards raised their weapons, unsure what to do. "Wait," Taiho said, holding up his hand. "Don't shoot. I think it's trying to tell us something." The room was silent except for the soft hum of emergency lights. 6 guards stood with weapons pointed at the shadow, waiting for orders. Counselor Park was frozen by the door, her eyes wide with fear and wonder. "Please," Taiho said to everyone, "stay calm and don't make sudden moves." The shadow stayed close to him, its body shifting slightly like dark water. Taiho noticed how it kept itself between him and the guards, as if it was protecting him. Director Kang entered the room with more guards. When he saw the shadow free but calm beside Taiho, he stopped short. "Impossible," he whispered. "Dr. Kim," Counselor Park called softly, "can you get it back into containment?" Taiho looked at the broken cube. The walls were still there, but the quantum field that kept the shadow solid was gone. "I can try," he said. He turned to the shadow and pointed toward the cube. "We need you to go back." The shadow's head moved from Taiho to the cube and back again. It seemed to understand, but it didn't move. Taiho thought for a moment, then had an idea. He walked slowly toward the cube. The shadow followed, staying close to his side. "Good," Taiho said softly. "That's good." When they reached the cube, Taiho stopped. The shadow stopped too, looking at the broken container. "I need you to go inside," Taiho said, pointing. The shadow didn't move. Instead, it made a low sound, almost like a hum. The sound made the air vibrate. "I think it's afraid," Taiho said to the others. "It doesn't want to be trapped again." Director Kang moved closer, careful to keep his distance. "This creature has killed 23 people, Dr. Kim. It needs to be contained." Taiho looked at the shadow. He couldn't explain why, but he felt sure that the creature wasn't evil. Maybe it had killed because it was scared, or because it had been treated badly. "What if I stay with it?" he suggested. "In a secure room, not a cage. Just until we understand each other better." Counselor Park and Director Kang exchanged looks. "That would be extremely dangerous," Director Kang said. "But if it works," Counselor Park replied, "it could be a huge breakthrough." She turned to Taiho. "Are you sure about this? You've just met this creature." Taiho nodded. "I'm sure." An hour later, Taiho sat in a large empty room with the shadow. The room had been quickly cleared of furniture and equipment. One wall was made of clear, strong material so that scientists could watch from outside. Guards stood ready, but they stayed out of sight to avoid making the shadow nervous. Taiho sat cross-legged on the floor. The shadow moved around the room, checking every corner before returning to sit near him. "We need a better way to talk," Taiho said. He reached slowly into his pocket and took out his datapad. The shadow watched with interest as Taiho turned it on and opened a drawing program. "Look," he said, drawing a simple picture of a human. "This is me." He pointed to himself, then to the picture. Then he drew a shape like the shadow next to it. "This is you," he said, pointing to the shadow and then to the drawing. The shadow moved closer to see the screen. Then, to Taiho's amazement, it raised one clawed foot and touched the screen. A black mark appeared where it touched. "You want to try?" Taiho asked, offering the pad. The shadow took the pad with surprising gentleness. Using the tip of its claw, it began to draw. The marks were shaky at first, but soon a clear pattern emerged. Outside the room, the watching scientists gasped. The shadow was drawing a map of stars, and at one point on the map, it drew a small circle. "I think," Tahoe said loudly enough for the observers to hear, "it's showing us where it comes from." The shadow placed the pad on the floor and looked at Tahoe. For the first time, its eyes stayed visible, glowing purple in its dark face. "You're not just intelligent," Tahoe said softly. "You're a person." The shadow's body rippled, and the humming sound came again. But this time, Tahoe felt something else, a light touch in his mind, like a question. He didn't know how, but he could sense the creature's feelings. Not with words, but with images and emotions. It was curious about him. It was relieved to be understood. And it had a name. "Dusk," Tahoe said aloud, the name appearing in his mind. "Your name is Dusk." The shadow, Dusk, moved its head in what looked very much like a nod. Outside the room, the scientists were talking excitedly. Director Kang was writing notes so fast his four hands could barely keep up. But Tahoe wasn't thinking about the scientific breakthrough. He was thinking about the feeling he had sensed from Dusk along with its name. Loneliness, a deep, terrible loneliness that had lasted for years. "You're not alone anymore," Tahoe promised quietly. The great meeting hall of the Galactic Council was filled with noise. Representatives from 53 worlds sat in curved rows, all talking at once. At the center of the room was a round platform where speakers could be seen by everyone. Counselor Jin Woo Lee, Earth's main representative, stood on the platform. He had been trying to speak for several minutes, but the noise was too loud. Finally, the council leader, a tall being with silver skin, raised a glowing staff. A deep bell sound filled the room, and everyone grew quiet. "The council will have order," the leader said. "Earth Representative Lee has the right to speak." Jinwoo nodded his thanks. "Honored council members, it has been 3 days since the incident with the creature known as the Nexus Shadow. In that time, Dr. Tahoe Kim has made amazing progress in communicating with the being he now calls Dusk." "Progress," shouted a reptile-like council member. "That human is in danger. The beast is playing tricks to escape again." Shouts of agreement came from many in the room. Jinwoo raised his hands for quiet. "I understand your fears, but I ask you to look at the facts. For the first time ever, the shadow has not tried to escape. It stays willingly with Dr. Kim, because it plans to kill him when our guard is down," called another voice. On a screen above the platform, images appeared showing Tahoe and Dusk in their room. Tahoe was sitting on the floor with data pads spread around him. Dusk was curled nearby, its dark body relaxed. "Does this look like a creature planning to kill?" Jinwoo asked. For 3 days they have been together constantly. Not once has Dusk shown any sign of aggression. Director Kang moved to the platform to stand beside Jinwoo. His round body looked small next to the human, but his voice was strong. "I have studied this species for 30 years, he said. "I believe them to be nothing but dangerous predators. Now I must admit I was wrong. The shadow, Dusk, shows clear signs of high intelligence." The room filled with voices again. Many council members looked angry or afraid. Others seemed interested. "We should bring in your Dr. Kim," said the council leader when the noise died down. "Let him explain what he has learned." 20 minutes later, Tahoe stood on the platform. He looked tired but happy. Behind him, to everyone's shock, stood Dusk. The shadow moved calmly, staying close to Tahoe, but looking around with clear interest at the council members. Many council members moved back in their seats. Some even stood to leave. "Please," Tahoe said, "there is no danger. Dusk is here as a guest, not a prisoner." "How can you be sure it won't attack?" asked a bird-like council member, her feathers puffed up in fear. "Because we understand each other now," Tahoe explained. Dusk's species, which they call the Veil Walkers, communicate through images and feelings, not words. They can share these mental images with anyone who is open to receiving them. Mental images? You mean it's reading your mind? Asked another council member, sounding horrified. Not exactly, Taiho said. It's more like sharing pictures or feelings. And only when I allow it. Councillor Park, who had been quiet until now, stood from her seat. Dr. Kim, you claim this creature is not just intelligent, but actually has a civilization. What proof do you have? Taiho nodded to Dusk, who moved forward slightly. The shadow's form rippled, and suddenly the lights in the room dimmed. From Dusk's body, a stream of shadow rose up and spread out. Within the shadow, points of light appeared. A star map, Taiho explained. Dusk is showing us the location of the Veil Walker homeworld. The council members watched in silence as the three-dimensional map rotated slowly. It showed star systems that many recognized. That's in the dark zone, said Director Kang with surprise. The area of space we avoid because of dangerous radiation. Not radiation, Taiho corrected. The Veil Walkers create a field around their planet that affects our sensors. They're private beings. They've been watching the council races for centuries, staying hidden. A new sound filled the room, a deep, gentle humming. It came from Dusk, but somehow it seemed to touch the minds of everyone present. Dusk is trying to say hello, Taiho explained with a small smile. It's the first Veil Walker to choose to make direct contact with the council races. But why now? Asked the council leader. And why a human? Taiho looked at Dusk before answering. Because humans were the first to see them as people, not monsters. 1 week after the council meeting, a new space had been set up for Taiho and Dusk. It was a large room with areas for both of them to be comfortable. One side had human furniture and equipment. The other side had dark spaces and strange objects that Dusk seemed to prefer. Scientists from many worlds came to watch them work together. Among them was a small team of humans who had been brought from Earth to help. Today we're going to try something new, Taiho said to the observers behind the clear wall. We think we found a way to make communication easier. Beside him, Minho, a human engineer, was working on a small device. It looked like a metal disc with lights around the edge. The problem, Minho explained, is that Dusk communicates through electromagnetic signals that human brains can only partly sense. This device should help translate those signals into something we can understand better. Dusk moved close to the device, its purple eyes fixed on the lights. Over the past week, it had grown more comfortable showing its eyes all the time. Taiho had learned this was a sign of trust among the Veil Walkers. Ready to try? Taiho asked Dusk. The shadow made its now familiar humming sound. Taiho had come to recognize different tones in the hum. This one meant agreement. Minho turned on the device. The lights began to pulse gently. Now, Dusk tried to send a message while touching the top sensor. Dusk extended a tendril of shadow and touched the device. Immediately, the lights changed pattern, and a sound came from the speaker, not words, but a series of tones that rose and fell like music. At the same time, Taiho felt a stronger version of the mental images he had been receiving from Dusk. But now, they were clearer, more detailed. It's working, he said, his eyes wide with wonder. I can see stars, a planet with 3 moons. There are others like Dusk, hundreds of them, moving through shadows between large crystal structures. The observers watched in amazement as Taiho described what he was seeing. Minho quickly made adjustments to the device. I'm recording the signals, he said. With time, we might be able to create a full translation system. For the next few hours, they worked on improving the device. Each time, the images became clearer, and sometimes Taiho could even understand concepts that felt like words. Home, he said at one point. Dusk is showing me home. By the end of the day, they had made a breakthrough. The device could now take the images Dusk shared and display them as rough pictures on a screen. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. As the scientists were preparing to leave for the day, dusk suddenly became very still. It moved to the center of the room and formed a perfect ball of shadow. "What's happening?" Director Kang asked, concerned. "I'm not sure," Taiho said. "It's never done this before." The ball of shadow began to pulse, and the translation device lit up with activity. On the screen, images flashed quickly, too fast to follow. "Slow down, Dusk," Taiho said gently. "We can't understand when it's so fast." The shadow ball slowed its pulsing. Now the images on the screen showed a clear sequence. Veil walkers on their home planet, then ships arriving, explosions, Veil walkers being captured. "It's showing us how they first met the council races," Minho said. More images followed. Veil walkers in containers, being studied, some dying in captivity. Then the images showed them being used to hunt down other creatures, forced to work as living weapons. "They were enslaved," Taiho said, his voice tight with anger. "The council didn't just study them, they used them as weapons." The final image showed a single Veil walker in a container. With a shock, Taiho recognized the distinctive pattern of purple eyes. "It's Dusk," he said. "This is Dusk's story." The shadow ball collapsed, and Dusk returned to its normal form. It moved close to Taiho, making a humming sound that seemed sad. Taiho looked at Director Kang, whose golden eyes were wide with shock. "Did you know about this?" Taiho demanded. "No," Director Kang said, his voice shaking. "These events happened long before my time. The official records only say the shadow was captured during an exploration mission. We need to bring this to the council," Taiho said firmly. "They need to know the truth." He placed his hand gently on Dusk's side. "We'll make this right," he promised. "No more cages, no more weapons, just the truth." Dusk's eyes glowed brighter, and through their connection, Taiho felt something new from the creature. The emergency council meeting was called just 2 days after Dusk's revelation. The Great Hall was filled to capacity. News had spread fast about what the human and the shadow had discovered. Taiho stood on the central platform with Dusk beside him. Behind them were screens showing the images they had recorded from the translation device. Councillor Jinwoo and Councillor Park stood with them in support. "Honored council members," Taiho began, "what I'm about to show you will be difficult to accept. But it is the truth as Dusk has shared it with me." He nodded to Minho, who started the recording. On the large screens, the history of the Veil Walkers played out for all to see. Their peaceful life on their home world. The arrival of council ships. The violence that followed. As the images showed Veil Walkers being captured and used as weapons, many council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Some of the older members looked away, unable to watch. When the recording ended, the room was silent. "These events happened over 200 years ago," Taiho said. "According to Dusk, over 50 Veil Walkers were taken from their world. They were separated and sent to different military bases across council space." Director Kang stepped forward. "I have checked our oldest records. They confirm parts of this story, though many details were hidden or changed." An old council member with long white tentacles for arms rose from his seat. His voice was deep and tired. "I was there," he said, surprising everyone. "I was young then, just a junior science officer. We were told the creatures were mindless predators that needed to be controlled before they became a threat." He lowered his head. "We didn't know they were people. Or perhaps you didn't want to know," Jinwoo said, his voice firm, but not angry. "It's easier to use a weapon if you believe it has no feelings." Murmurs spread through the hall. Some angry, some sad, some defensive. The council leader raised his staff for silence. "Dr. Kim, are you certain of these claims? Could the creature be showing you false images to gain sympathy?" Dusk moved forward, its body rippling with what Taiho now recognized as emotion. The shadow extended a tendril and touched the translation device Minho held. New images appeared on the screen, clearer, more detailed. They showed Dusk's memories of being held in small containers, of painful tests, of being forced to hunt other beings. Years of suffering, loneliness, and fear. Dusk has been in council custody for over 180 years, Taiho said. In all that time, no one tried to communicate. No one saw a person instead of a monster. The white-tentacled council member spoke again. How many Veil Walkers remain alive? Dusk created a new image on the screen. A map of council space with 8 points of light. Only 8, Taiho translated. Out of the 50 taken, only 8 have survived. The rest died from mistreatment or trying to escape. Councillor Park stepped forward. We cannot change the past, but we can change how we act now. The Earth delegation proposes that all remaining Veil Walkers be freed immediately and recognized as sentient beings with full rights. A storm of voices filled the room. Many council members seemed shocked by the idea. Others nodded in agreement. This is unprecedented, the council leader said when the noise died down. We have never granted such status to a species we previously classified as animals. Then it's time to set a new precedent, Jin Wu said. Earth is the newest member of this council. We're still learning your ways. But perhaps you can learn something from us as well, that it's never too late to correct a mistake. Director Kang stepped forward. As the senior xenobiologist, I support this proposal. My research now confirms that Veil Walkers have intelligence equal to or greater than many council races. They have language, culture, art, and complex social structures. Dusk made a humming sound and created a new image. Its home world with the missing Veil Walkers returned. Dusk wants to go home, Taiho said simply, and to take the others with it. They want peace, not revenge. The council leader looked around the room. This matter requires a vote. All members will have their say. He turned to Taiho and Dusk. Until then, thank you for your courage in bringing this to us. As they left the platform, Taiho felt Dusk touch his mind gently. The images it shared were of gratitude and something that felt very much like friendship. No matter what they decide, Taiho promised quietly, I'll help you find the others. 3 months had passed since the truth about the Veil Walkers was revealed to the council. The vote had been close, but in the end, they had made the right choice. Taiho stood on the bridge of the Earth ship Horizon, which had been his home when he first arrived at Nexus Prime. Now it was taking him on a new journey. Beside him stood Dusk, no longer contained or feared, but respected as an official ambassador. We're approaching the coordinates, Captain Sumin said from her command chair, dropping out of light speed in 3, 2, 1. The blue streaks outside the window faded, and a beautiful sight appeared before them. A dark planet with 3 glowing moons orbited a purple-tinted star. This was the home world of the Veil Walkers. It's just like your memories, Taiho said to Dusk. The shadow made a happy humming sound. Its body seemed more vibrant now, the black deeper and richer. After months of working together, Taiho could understand most of Dusk's feelings without the translation device, but they still used it for complex ideas. Dusk touched the device, and an image appeared on the screen. Hundreds of Veil Walkers gathering, sensing the arrival of the ship. They know we're here, Taiho told the bridge crew. They're waiting for us. In the ship's cargo hold, special containers held 7 other Veil Walkers. They had been collected from military bases and research centers across Council space. Some had been in captivity even longer than Dusk. All had been mistreated, but now they were going home. Councillor Park entered the bridge, dressed in her formal diplomatic uniform. Are we ready for the landing? Yes, Councillor, Captain Sumin replied. We're just waiting for final approval from the council representatives. Behind Councillor Park came Director Kang and 3 other alien officials. They represented the Galactic Council on this historic mission. The council observation team is ready, Director Kang said. His golden eyes were fixed on the planet below. I never thought I would see this day. Nor did they, Taiho said, nodding toward Dusk. For them, this ends 2 centuries of pain. The ship entered the planet's atmosphere, following the landing coordinates Dusk had provided. They flew over vast forests where crystal structures rose like towers among the trees. The sunlight created rainbow patterns as it passed through the crystals. They landed in a large clearing. Through the ship's windows, they could see movement in the shadows between the trees, hundreds of Veil Walkers watching and waiting. Remember, Taiho told the council representatives, let them make the first move. Don't show fear, they can sense it. The ship's door opened slowly. A ramp extended down to the dark soil of the Veil Walker world. Taiho and Dusk walked out first, side by side. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, from the forest edge, a larger Veil Walker emerged. Its eyes glowed bright blue instead of purple, and patterns of lighter shadow moved across its body. Dusk moved forward and made a complex series of movements. The larger shadow responded with similar movements. That's the Elder, Taiho explained to the others who had followed him out, the leader of this community. The translation device in Taiho's hand lit up as it captured the exchange between Dusk and the Elder. Images appeared showing the story of Dusk's capture, imprisonment, and finally, friendship with the human. When the exchange ended, the Elder moved closer to the ship. It extended a tendril of shadow toward Taiho. Taiho reached out and gently touched the shadow. Immediately, his mind filled with images of gratitude and welcome. The Elder thanks us for bringing their people home, he told the others, and they invite us to stay as honored guests. One by one, the other 7 Veil Walkers were brought out from the ship. As each one touched the soil of their home world, their forms seemed to become more vibrant. They joined their people, moving into the forest in rivers of living shadow. What happens now? Captain Sumin asked, watching the reunion with wonder. Now Taiho said, we build something new. The council has appointed me and Dusk as joint ambassadors to the Veil Walkers. We'll help establish formal relations between them and the council races. All because you weren't afraid to see beyond appearances, Councillor Park said with pride. Dusk returned to Taiho's side and made its happy humming sound. Through their connection, Taiho felt the shadow's joy at being home and its gratitude for his friendship. What did humans call it? Director Kang asked. When you see with your heart instead of your eyes. Empathy, Taiho said, as he watched the sun setting over the Veil Walker world. Sometimes it's our greatest strength.